Good afternoon, grinders. This is your MLB SimLabs analysis for Monday, April 14th. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka BlenderHD. You're going to follow me on Twitter. And we got 8 games tonight on the slate in the MLB. I know the basketball playoffs are going to be starting soon, so definitely tune in for all of our content. We got playoff content. We got even the NHL. NHL's winding down also. All the stuff's going on here at RotoGrinders. So hit that thumbs up button. We always appreciate the thumbs. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. And hit the notification bell to always know when we go live. Remember, crunch time is when Kevin Roth is on, giving you all the latest to-the-minute updates on the weather, because that's going to be important. Maybe not as much tonight. I think the only game in question is the Mets-Twins game. Roth does have the initial weather report as a decent amount of rain around, but he's optimistic they play ball one way or another. But as he says, we need a radar check pregame to have a better idea for what's up. So tune into Grinders Live at 5 p.m. Eastern, 6:15 or so for crunch time before the slate starts. And I think it's going to matter a little bit because one of the cheaper, maybe going a little under-owned pitchers on today's slate is Clay Holmes. We see here in SimLabs, we have him as the most under-owned pitcher on the slate. He's not that great of a pitcher, though. Okay, so be very aware. Not that great of a pitcher, but we have him as the 4th highest optimal rate on the slate, significantly under-owned as of now. I don't think he'll be we have him like 5% owned. I don't think he'll be 5% owned, probably 12, 15% owned. Still probably under-owned against Minnesota, who's a pretty high strikeout team. So he's 7,500. Granholm, 6,500. He may be a little bit of, he's possible as a cheaper option. We got a lot of value bats on the slate. You could, some of these stacks, there are a lot of these cheap, like 2K, 3K hitters in there that you could kind of fit in anything you want. Maybe not the Dodgers. Dodgers have the highest implied team total, 5.71. The Yankees, 4.82. They're going to be a little bit more expensive. You're probably going to have to play a guy like Clay Holmes in order to get those expensive stacks. But the top projected pitcher on the slate is Tariq Skubal, 10.5K. We have him in our projections almost 3 points clear as a mean projection over every other pitcher on the slate, because we have like Dustin May at about 19-point projection, Framber Valdez 17, and then we got Cease, Baz, Sonny Gray, Joe Ryan about in that same level, but we have Skubal as the highest optimal rate pitcher today at 40%, which is pretty damn high for an 8-game slate. Framber Valdez 28%. Seth Lugo, 22%. That maybe it's a little bit of a contrarian option facing the Yankees. So maybe if you want to play Lugo in some of your lineups, I think people probably avoid pitchers against the Yankees, especially in Yankee Stadium. But 7,600, pretty cheap. If you want to play that Dodgers stack, maybe a Lugo Holmes lineup is possible. We have some pretty decent pitchers on today's slate. So the pitching scores you may need 40 points plus combined out of both your pitchers to be competitive today in GPPs. So be careful about that. The other totals in a lot of the other games aren't like great. It's not like low like it was last week where we set some games where like half the teams had under a 4-point implied total. So we have some 4s, 4.5s. We could take a look at the top stack tool here at RotoGrinders. And we see here, we got the Royals, the Tigers, the Braves at the highest optimal rate. Then the Dodgers, the Astros, then the Mets. And then it kind of a big drop off from that point forward. Obviously, the Dodgers, they could score a ton of runs. Very expensive stack, though. But from a value perspective, the Royals, the Tigers, and the Braves are kind of like the joint, if you want to call them vomit stacks. It really just comes down to, it's not like the main hitters. It's the fact that there are a lot of cheapies in there. So we take a look at the Royals lineup. It's like, yeah, Bobby Witt's 5,900, but like Cavan Biggio, 2,500, right? Against Carlos Carrasco, with a good lefty-righty split. You got, guys like Melendez, Renfro on the bottom of the order. Even Michael Massey isn't all that expensive at 3,700. So you can fit the Royals in today. They get a ballpark upgrade playing in Yankee Stadium. So they're going to be one of the top stacks on the slate. Then we take a look at the Braves. And yeah, a lot of these guys are in the 4K range. Albies, Riley, Ozuna, Olsen, Murphy. But then you got like Brian Dela Cruz, Stuart Fairchild. Or obviously, you could always throw in Arcia. But these guys are sub 3K. Fairchild, especially, he's 2K. He doesn't project highly, but if you're playing a Brave stack, getting a 2K outfielder in order to get Tariq Skubal into your lineup, I think is perfectly fine. And then the last one is the Tigers, and then we got like Ibanez at 2,900, who's cheap. We got Malloy at 2,500, who's cheap. The corpse of Javi Baez at 2,700, and who's essentially a 0 or 14. Does he do anything else? Probably not. So those are kind of like the joint vomit stacks, and they're not all that vomity. Like Detroit has a 4.11 implied team total. The Braves have a 4.5 point implied team total. The Royals 4.18. So these aren't, they're vomit, but these teams are probably in the upper half as far as totals are concerned, right? Most of these other teams, the Yankees at 4.8, right? So like the Royals and the Tigers and the Braves are not that far behind. So I'm expecting to see a lot of that in SimLabs, especially with like someone like Grant, with Clay Holmes, Seth Lugo. Like Tariq Skubal, we have at 37% projected owned, 40% optimal. So even though Skubal may be the highest owned pitcher on the slate, he may actually be under owned today. We have a lot of options. So a lot of people may play Baz. They look at recent game logs, right? They play Shane Baz against Boston. Dylan Cease against the Cubs at 9,800. Ryan and Gray, 8,500, 9K. The ownership is going to be a little bit more spread out at pitcher. So maybe Skubal doesn't come in at like 50% owned. So, because there's a lot of other options on the slate. So I'm going to do a small field lineup. I'm going to run 150. I'm going to reset up correlation up to, a bunch. Instead of locking in, you could lock in like minimum stack 5, 4, 3 here in SimLabs. But since we're using simulations, right? We take our projections, we take our ownership, we run 10,000 plus simulations. We have simulated lineups in your contest depending on the size, and we see what lineups have the highest rating, show up as the most profitable in the long run. Based on the range of outcomes. If you simulate the games, correlation just like naturally fits in. So you don't even need to like force in 5-man stack. Especially if you up the correlation weight in SimLabs enough, even like to like 20%, like you should be getting a ton of 5-man, 4-3 lineups, 5-2-1 lineups, those types of lineups. So if I run this right now with 150, and remember, you could use SimLabs even if you're not playing 150 lineups. You can look at as many lineups as you want. You can play 3 of them, right? And I think we're in the middle of an update. Let me run this over again. Always recording in the afternoon. Yeah, okay. So we do have an update. Okay, 12:31. I think we're getting a bunch of, because it's telling me that did Skubal get ruled out? Then I don't even know about it. But that we have Skubal as very heavily overowned. So let me run this and see what's going on. So let me just run this for 20. I do these live, people. I want to show you the real process live, not some type of edited, like, oh, so it's all perfect and everything. This is what you'd be doing, an hour before lock. Even though in baseball, you could look at SimLabs even beforehand. I know there'll be some lineup changes, but for the most part, we don't get like pitchers scratched and stuff like that all the time. But I ran 20 using the settings from before. And we see here's a Brave stack. Here's Clay Holmes. Let me see if I could run 150, and that comes up now. Let's see what we get, because this thing runs really quickly, even for 150, 4 or 5 seconds typically. 20 you could get in 1 or 2 seconds. Let's see what comes up. We're evaluating thousands of lineups. Please wait a few seconds for this process to complete. Okay, here we go. And I like going to this exposures tab. Let's see what shows up here. Okay, from a starting pitcher perspective, getting a lot of Valdez, a lot of School, a lot of paying up at pitcher because of the vomit stacks that are available to us. But yeah, we're getting Valdez, Skubal, Holmes, Lugo, then a kind of a little bit of a bunch of other people. Not as much Ryan, Cease, Baz. There's some Dustin May, I guess. Right, that's fine. So you're getting a lot of Valdez, Skubal, Clay, and the cheap ones are Clay Holmes, Seth Lugo as a contrarian option. And from a team perspective, a lot. See, look at it. A lot of Braves, a lot of Royals, a lot of Tigers. Then obviously you still Dodger. I mean, what do these Dodgers lineups look like? So on the exposures tab here, you can even click on teams and players, and it will sort the lineups based on what you click on. So you see, there's a little search box here you could use also, but I could click on like Dodgers. Well, I used to be able to click on Dodgers. Okay. Oh, so okay. Selected team stacks: Detroit, Atlanta, Kansas City. So let me X those out. X those out. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Dodgers. So you can take a look at what Dodgers lineups look like, right? Skubal, you can play Skubal Holmes. I mean, take a look at this lineup. You're playing 1, 2. Well, these are 3-man stack. So Atlanta Braves, 1, 2, 3, 4, like a 4-3-1, right? So you get Skubal Holmes, Will Smith, Max Muncy, Shohei Ohtani, good hitters. Then you're playing Dela Cruz, Ozuna, Arcia, Matt Olson, and Brad Batty as a one-off. But remember, that Mets Twins game, you got to check out the crunch time later to see if that game is indeed playing. That's gonna mean a lot for Clay Holmes, right? Probably don't play Clay Holmes. I mean, it's a 7:40 Eastern time game. Don't play Clay Holmes if the game gets rained out. So don't do that. But this is kind of what Dodgers lineups look like in Dodgers Mets. Dodgers 4-man Dodgers with the Tiger and 2 Astros. This is a pretty contrarian lineup, right? So you could sort and do all of this in SimLabs. But I like running 150 just to see kind of what shows up in general, right? So maybe if I played 3 lineups, I'd probably play 1 Lugo lineup. As I don't think we have him at 16% owned projected wise. I just don't think he comes in at 16% owned. I think it'd be more like 10% owned. But we have him as a 22% optimal rate. So I consider playing a Lugo lineup today. So you could even lock players in, right? So let's say we want to lock in Lugo and just look at Lugo lineups. And if we're playing Lugo, probably play Skubal in that lineup. I don't think we need extra like leverage there. So Skubal, Lugo, put in 20 lineups here. And yeah, we're getting a lot of Atlanta, a lot of Detroit, a lot of Kansas City. Maybe don't play Bobby Witt. I think Bobby Witt, if you're going to pay up somewhere like as a one-off at like shortstop, because I mean, SimLabs kind of wants you to throw in either a really cheap shortstop or really expensive shortstop. So it may be that Bobby Witt at 5,900 actually goes a little over-owned today. But we'll take a look at these lineups. So make all the assessments you want, and it'll filter out the lineups that you want to see and give you the rating based on your advanced settings. And obviously, if you select a configuration, I want to play this guy and then not play that guy and this guy, and the ratings come back as like like dog poop emoji. You know that there aren't any lineups that based on our sims are profitable based on that. So let's I'm going to put up just 10 lineups. Let's see the lineups. What does the rest of the lineup look like if we play Skubal, Lugo, no Bobby Witt? Press the get lineups button. This should take 2 seconds or 3 seconds or 4 seconds. Okay. Okay, we got 79, 77. They're okay. These are okay. And then now we start getting a little bit of a hit down here. Yeah, so not that many. So, see, this would be I mean, look at this lineup. This is a pseudo contrarian lineup. So Skubal, Lugo, right? Let me just make sure. What's the what is our mean optimal according to our projections? Just to see how much like median projection are we giving up. So the cash type line lineup 1 out of 10 is 96. So we're giving up about 8 points in projection, which is fine. Typically, like if I'm playing like small field, 8 to 10 points, I think is perfectly fine. If you're playing large field, I think 14 points is perfectly fine. That's like one swing of a bat, right? Home run, you're done, right? But this first lineup, we got Scooble Lugo. We got a 5-man Brave stack. And we got the main guys. We got a lot of the main guys. We got Murphy, Olson, obviously RC as a cheap shortstop, Marcell Ozuna, Brian De La Cruz. And then we got 2 Tigers, Torres and Baez. And then, like, the contrarian option here is playing Kyle Tucker as a one-off at like 4% owned at 6,300. And the fact he's facing Dylan Cease today means he may even come in less than 4% owned. But it's a good matchup. Left, I mean, as far as splits are concerned, against Dylan Cease. So this is kind of a boom or bust option. But you can see here, the only reason Kyle Tucker's in this lineup is because we're playing kind of a chalky Braves, Detroit, Scooble type of setup. So really your standout options here are Seth Lugo and Kyle Tucker for contrarian purposes. And that's where a lot of the SimLabs rating is coming from. So let's say we didn't play Scooble. So let's say you want to do some research of lineups that didn't have Tariq Skubal in it. Okay, so you want to look at what they look like. Maybe it's more like a Dodgers lineup. Maybe it's a lineup that you could spend up a little bit more because Skubal is the most expensive pitcher at 10.5K. So I want to look and see. So what do these non-Skubal lineups look like? I'm assuming we're going to get Valdez. I'm assuming these are like Valdez May lineups. Valdez Lugo. Here's a seed. Valdez Cease. Sonny Gray, Clay Holmes. Right? This is a way to play the Braves, kind of contrarian wise. Right? We're getting Freddie Freeman back. Right? You can play him. Right? Junior Caminero. Right? You're still playing Arcia. Like the thing about the Sims is that feels like at shortstop today, like you're paying all the way up or all the way down. Right? Arcia, Bobby Witt, Mookie Betts. Like it's like one of the two. And it's perfectly fine to play it. Like if you're playing a Brave stack, I think Arcia is perfectly fine. Would you play Arcia as a one-off? A little bit questionable. But if you already got a bunch of Braves in your lineup, if the Braves do well, Arcia will get 5 instead of 4 at bats or 3 at bats. He'll get 5 at bats. You know, he could drive some people in. So I like Arcia as part of a stack. Obviously, guys like Bobby Witt and Mookie Betts, they're perfectly fine as one-offs. So here's a Kansas City stack, like Dylan Cease, Framber Valdez, and a fairly chalky Royal stack. And then you got some Blue Jays on the other side. And that's, a little bit. I don't think Grant Holmes is going to be that owned, whether or not it'll be leverage. I mean, the Blue Jays are going to be a little bit owned today. If we take a look at the top stacks tool, Toronto's kind of like, actually, we have Toronto as over-owned today. Even though they're in the upper half, we have them as a 4.6% optimal rate, but an aggregate average ownership of like 12%. Maybe it doesn't end up being that high, but still, anything over 4 or 5 is probably over-owned. So maybe stay away from a leverage purpose, the Blue Jays today. And this is pretty much how you use SimLabs. So even if you're playing 150, if you're playing one lineup, SimLabs is probably the best research tool in the business. You can sync the lineups to Lineup HQ. If you're a premium member, you could save lineups for later, right? You can just look through, okay, this looks pretty good, save it. And then we'll do another run. This looks pretty good, save it. This looks pretty good. You could save a whole bunch of lineups at the same time, right? And you could always export these lineups to CSV if you're using, you're doing 20, 50, 150 lineups. You can always use SimLabs for that. And that's also part of the Combo Light package here at RotoGrinders. It's our like cheapest option. And as I always say, still way too cheap. $29.99 a month. It's available for NFL, NBA, MLB, PGA. You get full access to SimLabs. All of our tools and content, right? So you can use Plate IQ. You can do your baseball research with that. You get our written content like Cheese's $1 Million Musings, which he has up today. It's probably 1 million words. I mean, He writes like 20,000 words a day on the baseball slates. So you get access to all of that as part of the Combo Light package. But I'm always here for free for you, doing a little bit of the legwork. So hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. The more thummy thumbs, the closer I get to you fully getting my voice back. Right? I could go like 10, 15 minutes, as you can see here. Still getting over this cold. But Heb said the more likes, it helps my immune system, boost my immune system by hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, and tuning in later to Grinders Live in Crunch Time. Hit that notification bell to always know when we go live. Because I'm here for you doing your MLB SimLabs analysis on RotoGrinders.com.